Researcher notes. I also have an interesting story related to our cat. One morning, the whole family was about to leave the house. My husband was going to work, and my son was going to school. My husband went outside to go down to the basement under our house, and the cat followed him. We all packed up, got in the car, and left. In the afternoon, I picked up my son from class and we headed home. When we got into the apartment, a cat came out of the living room towards us. I was surprised, thinking that maybe my husband had come home and let it out. I called him, but he said he wasn't home. Then I asked myself the question, who let the cat in? My husband suggested that she might have snuck into the house when we were out in the morning. I soon forgot about the incident. However, usually when we get home, the cat starts asking for food, but this time it was quiet. I went looking for her around the house, but I couldn't find her anywhere. But somewhere in the distance, I heard a meow. When I listened, I realized it was coming from the basement. I went down there and let the cat out. Apparently, my husband had accidentally left it locked up there in the morning. But then what happened when we got home? Perhaps I was imagining things. I turned to my son to ask if he had seen the cat when we arrived. He confirmed that he had seen it come out to greet us. What it was is still a mystery. Maybe it was a collective hallucination. Remember the movie The Matrix? When the cat walked past the door and then without coming back again walked in the same direction. It was like the video looped at a certain point. The creators of this movie were trying to hint something about the structure of this world. In the early 90s, I lived in Vladivostok and worked in the suburbs. Every day I got to work by electric train. I always had the keys to my apartment and my office with me, but they were never in the same place at the same time. In the morning, when closing the apartment, I put the key in my bag, and the key to the office was in my pocket. In the evening, leaving the workplace, I did the opposite. The key to the office went into my bag, and the key to the apartment in my pocket. This order allowed me to avoid unnecessary searches near the door. But one day things didn't go according to plan. After the end of the working day, as usual, I closed the office, put the key in my bag, and took out the key to the apartment, which I put in my pocket. Already approaching the train, I suddenly remembered that the next day I had to go not to work, but to the laboratory to hand in the documents, which, as luck would have it, were left in the office. I instantly turned around and ran back. I reached the second floor, jumped into the office, grabbed the documents, closed the door, and ran back to the platform. I made it to the last car, collapsed on the seat, and only then noticed that I still had the key to the apartment in my hand. I thought that maybe the keys were interchangeable. Turns out they weren't. The apartment key didn't even fit through the keyhole of the study door. It's been over 30 years now, and I still can't understand how this is possible. After hearing stories about doppelgangers, I was reminded of an event. My friend, upon seeing me, said she saw me getting out of my car outside a cafe. She asked, "Did you buy a car?" I laughed. What kind of car could I have in 1994 when my financial situation was dire? She described my clothes in detail. I knew for sure that no one wore such a jacket. It was Japanese, bought in Tashkent, and the skirt was made by my mother, who was a dressmaker. My friend did not believe my words, looking at me with disbelief. However, this incident was memorable to me for another reason. As for the exact time on the clock, I will not even talk about it. I am glad that the failure occurred in the Matrix and not in my head. My husband and I went to bed, leaving the light on in the hallway. I was facing the corridor and I was trying to talk myself into getting up and turning off the light, but laziness overcame me, and my husband was already asleep, lying behind me closer to the window. Suddenly I saw him get up and head for the exit. I thought he had decided to turn off the light, but then I noticed a strange phenomenon. It was as if my husband had split. It seemed that his copies were passing through invisible barriers, and I saw several husbands at the same time. I was shocked by this sight. The husband kept moving, going into the hallway, and I continued to lie there, waiting for him to return. I thought he would fall apart again or come in whole. but he never appeared. I waited, and he was still gone. Suddenly, I felt a stirring behind me, and I was startled, wondering who was there. I was surprised again. My sleeping husband was lying there. As for contacts with aliens and attacks from subtle worlds during sleep, remember that no one has the right to negatively influence you. A human being has tremendous power. If the intervention is for your good, it is necessary to explain and get your consent. It's best not to be afraid and firmly state, "Go away." If you are uncomfortable with what they are doing, express your displeasure. Sometimes they collect biomaterial, such as sex cells from women. But this is only done with your soul's permission, as a contract. This contract can be canceled at any time. I've only had sleep paralysis once in my life. I felt like someone was holding me by the neck. I became enraged and tried to free myself. They instantly let go of me. You can also call on Archangel Michael for help in such situations. This case turned out to be amusing rather than mystical or mysterious. Nevertheless, it left me with an open question. I was in my early 20s. I was walking down the sidewalk in my hometown. I met a man who appeared to be intoxicated. He came up to me, looked at me carefully, and froze in place, as if he had grown attached to me. He had a slightly frightened look in his eyes. He said, "You are a saint." I quickened my steps as I was afraid he might fall to his knees. An alcoholic could imagine anything. I turned around, but he continued to stand still and stare after me. A little while later, my friend and I were sitting on a bench at the bus stop, waiting for the bus. We were talking about something of our own. There were many people around us, and then a man resembling a dwarf, but sober, passed by us. He stopped not far from us, pointed his finger at me and said, "You are an angel." I was embarrassed by this. I don't like to draw attention to myself. I tried to ignore him by saying, No, you are imagining things." But he persisted, saying I was an angel. He insisted, "Do they see halos over my head?" It happened in 2000, when I was walking in a forest grove where many people were walking their dogs. My mood was at zero, if not lower, given the difficult life circumstances and a severe headache. And ironically, I thought, I didn't need a dog here for my collection. At that moment, I heard a growl, and a large black dog with clear signs of aggression lunged at me. I fell to the ground, curled up in a ball. I covered my head with my hands and waited for the dog to hurt me, but it didn't bite me. I listened to what sounded like a walkie-talkie, voices saying something inaudible. I thought the police were coming. Then I heard the phrase, "Go back, the dogs have already left." The voices died down, and I heard the command, "Get up, the dogs are gone." I got up and looked around, but there was no one but a distant car, and there was complete silence. Tears came to my eyes, and I thanked God for saving me. Interestingly, the headache went away, and my mood improved. This incident was unusual and difficult to explain by a mere coincidence of circumstances. One day, as I was walking home, I was overtaken by a young woman who attracted my attention with her bright red knee-length skirt or tan skin. The next day, as I left the house, I again saw the same woman walking parallel to me on the road. Another day later, I ran into her again, but on the other side of the street. On the fourth day, I changed my route, but on my way out of the house, I saw her again, walking parallel to me on the road, but on the other side. The encounter happened every day, and I began to feel a slight anxiety. When I returned home on the fifth day, the woman was no longer walking in front of me, but standing with her back to me. I wanted to go up to her and ask her a question, like asking her the time, but I didn't because of my inner fear. Finally, on the sixth day, I purposefully took a different route to the stop, which was further away from my usual route. But as I approached the stop, I saw the woman facing me again. At that moment, I experienced real fear and hurried home, where I prayed and called a friend, telling her about the strange coincidences. In the end, I never met the woman again. Often in my youth, I had a dream in which I was in an airplane. It was scenes of landing, taking off, gaining altitude, and then I would wake up. I had never flown, but the dream was amazingly realistic. At the age of 36, I took to the air for the first time, and the sensation was completely consistent with what I had repeatedly experienced in my dreams. The flight was exactly as if I had been through it before. I also often dreamed that I was driving with confidence and without fear, as if I were studying for a driver's license test. But the most disturbing dream was about how I was walking to my parents, who lived in an apartment on the 4th floor, but there was no staircase. Instead, there was rubble and failures. With great difficulty and risk, I make my way to the floor, ring the doorbell, but there are strangers who inform me that my parents no longer live here. The house is empty. There is devastation all around, and I have a great fear that these nightmarish predictions may come true. My whole conscious life is a series of coincidences. I even have a notebook where I write down all the coincidences. But recently, adds to me a friend in a social network. He is from Turkey. I lived there for a while and made friends. A friend from Ukraine, met in Turkey, and I now live in Russia. I wrote to him, "Do you know each other?" And he said, "I saw my friend add you as a friend. I looked at you and said to him, 'Her last name is so familiar in her face. How do you know her?' He said that you were from Samara. And then I remembered, we met 6 years ago and I was courting you for a week, and you turned me away. Then I went to another city for work, and now I live in another country." And I remembered. So tell me, how come we live on a big planet, but as if from the same village? Thanks for watching. If you have your own stories about unexplained events, mysterious encounters, or strange coincidences, share them in the comments. Perhaps your experience will help others to understand this mysterious world. Subscribe to the channel, put likes, and leave your opinion.